and welcome to episode 4 of Book Writing Tips, quick tips for new and seasoned authors, and I am your host, Alba Arango. In this week's episode, I want to talk about writer's block. And yes, I know there is a school of thought that says writer's block is not a real thing. And I'm not here to debate if it's a real thing or not. I just want to say, hey, for me personally, sometimes I just get stuck. Like I don't know what to write next and I don't know what to do. So my hope is today to give you, as a writer, if you get stuck, some ideas that maybe can help you get unstuck. So without any further ado, let's get to it. Alrighty then, let's talk about different techniques of how to overcome writer's block. The first part of the episode, I want to talk about what's worked for me. And the second part of the episode, I'm going to give you even more techniques that I've heard work for other authors. So let's get to it. What works for me personally when I get stuck on a writing project? Well, first of all, let me just share that I personally just write one project at a time. So that's just me personally. Not all authors do this. In fact, there's a lot of authors that have 2 or 3 or 4 projects going at one time. But you got to understand, for me, I am easily distracted. So for me, if I start working on a second project, I'm going to forget about the first project and focus on the second project. And then I get distracted and I will never finish any projects. That's just me. That's just the way my brain works. I won't say exactly that I'm scatterbrained. I mean, you might say I'm scatterbrained. Maybe I am. But I am definitely someone who I need to focus. And for me, it means writing one project at a time. So for me, when I get what they call writer's block or I get stuck and I can't figure out where my story is going to go, here are 2 techniques that I use that have helped me many a time. There is a third technique too, but I really don't like to do it. So it's literally like my last resort, but it also does work for me. It's just not the one I prefer. So let's focus on the first 2 and then I'll talk about the third one too. And then after the break, I'm going to talk to you about more techniques that other authors do. All right, here we go. The first thing that I do if I get writer's block is I write a different scene in the story. So because I'm a pantser, and just again to remind you, there's plotters and pantsers. Plotters tend to outline and then follow the outline as they write their story. Or pantsers like me write literally by the seat of their pants. So they just start writing and see where the story goes. So for pantsers like me, I oftentimes don't know what scenes are going to happen in the future. But usually by the time I get writer's block, I'm like a third of the way or half the way into the book. And so I kind of have an idea more or less of where the story is probably going to go. So I will then kind of be like, okay, so I know the kids are going to find a clue in the beach. And so maybe I'll write that scene where they find the clue in the beach and what's that clue going to be? So then I look at where I left off, where I got stuck, and I'm like, okay, I got stuck here. So how did my kids get from here to the beach? And there could be a lot of different reasons why they ended up in the beach. Did they find another clue that gave them to the beach? Or was it just that one of their parents was like, hey, we're going to the beach tomorrow. You guys want to come? And they're like, okay. So it all just depends. And that way I know where they're going to go. So I can start coming up with a way of how they got from where I got stuck to where they're going to be. And that's something you can absolutely do in your book. If you already know, even if you're a plotter, you definitely already know where your story's going. So how are they going to get from here to there? And that helps me a lot to kind of try to figure out how they're going to get from where I got stuck to the new scene that I wrote. When that doesn't work, which is sometimes the case, then what I like to do is just kind of take a break from the story and write something else. But usually it's like a short story or something. I'll even take a writing prompt and kind of expand on it and make it into a short story, but something short. Because again, for me, I get too easily distracted. So if I focus too much on my side project here, then I'm probably not going to go back to my main goal, which is to get that book done. So for me, I make it a short story, I do it, and then hopefully I can come back with sort of like a cleansed mind and fresh eyes. And now I can refocus on where I want my main project to go. Oh, FYI, keep all these short stories that you write. Just if you're doing in Scrivener, put them on the side, or if you're in Word, find a folder and put them in a folder where they're just a bunch of short stories, because you never know when that short story is going to come in handy. And I will give you a case in point. I wrote this short story on a writing prompt. It was for a group, and it was supposed to be something scary. So I wrote this kind of creepy story about a serial killer. I mean, it was a short story, less than 1,000 words, but it was creepy. And I will tell you, I think it was like 3 or 4 years later, I was in a group and they were like, oh, we have submissions open for this like horror anthology of short stories. They have to be less than 1,000 words, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I think I wrote one of those. And I went back and got it, and it was submitted and accepted. And hey, man, I think I made $50. But on a short story that I wrote during my writer's block episode. So it's pretty cool. So definitely keep all those short stories or writing prompts that you write, because you never know when a situation may come up that you can actually use that for something else. Okay, so those are the two main things that I do when I get stuck writing a story. But there is one more thing I do, and I don't like to do it, but it does work for me. And that is to just stop writing. Stop thinking about it. Just stop the project. And don't do something else, not another project, not anything. Just stop. Stop writing. Usually what I do when this happens is I go to the movies, I binge watch Star Wars, which I have done more than once, sometimes just for fun. But that totally gets my mind completely off the story, which is what I want. I don't want to think about the characters. I don't want to think about anything. I want to completely clear my mind. So that's what I do. That's a last resort, because that throws off my timeline, throws off my writing goals, throws off all of that. But if I am truly stuck and I truly just can't figure out where to go, then I need to take a step back and just stop thinking about it. So those are things that I personally do to sort of get me through my writer's block. But there are many more things that other writers do that I want to share with you. But before we get to that, let's stop for our crazy law / writing prompt. Okay, this week's crazy law comes from Clinton, Indiana. Once upon a time in history, in Clinton, Indiana, taking a bath in the wintertime was prohibited. So there you go. I have no doubt you guys will have some fun coming up with why on earth they made that into a law. Okay, back to our episode. More techniques on if you get stuck with writer's block. All right. This next one, or this first one of more techniques, is to go into nature and or exercise. Now, this is actually something I do on a regular basis. Like, I love going into nature because, and by the way, that means by yourself, not going hiking with a friend. I mean, going into nature, go to the park, go on a hike, go outdoors, sit on your balcony by yourself, where you're just alone in nature with thoughts. And that way you allow your thoughts and you kind of allow nature to kind of, relax you maybe, help you think. And in your thinking, brainstorming, hopefully you'll come up with your next move in your project. And the same is true for exercise. And again, I don't mean go exercise with a buddy. I mean, just go earphones in your head, you're tuning everything else out, and you are working out and thinking about your book and your characters and where they're going to go. And I do this actually regularly. So I regularly go on walks, I regularly go on hikes, and I am constantly thinking about where the next step is going to be for my book. So I don't actually do that for writer's block because I do that regularly anyways. Another technique, write a short story about the character. So whichever character you're stuck on, because where you're stuck may not be with your main character, it may be with one of your side characters. Wherever you are in the book where you're stuck, the character whose point of view you're in, write a completely unrelated short story, one that's not even going to go in the book. It could be something about the character's backstory, but write a short story about that character, because that will get you more into the mindset of that character, what has happened to them or what they did or whatever. And maybe in doing that, it will help you think of what your character would do now in the situation you've put them in. So again, that's a brilliant idea. I've read a few different authors that do this. They write backstory or completely unrelated short stories with these characters that they are stuck on. All right, another idea. Collaborate with a friend. Now, if you are a seasoned author who is working on maybe book 2 or book 3 or book 4 of a series, choose a friend that you know has read all your books and be like, okay, hey, look, let's go to coffee because I got this thing. And now explain to them, this is the scene I'm in. This is what's going on with this character. What do you think this character would do? What do you think would happen next? Like if you were reading this book for the first time, where do you think the story would go? Because if your friend has read all your stories and all your books, then they're going to kind of have an idea of what this character is like and your writing style. And they might actually be able to help point you out. You could even do this with a writer's group that's, followed you along on your journey. Ask them, what do you guys think? And they might give you some brainstorming ideas of where the story could go. Now, if you're a first-time author and you've never written a book, this is the time where maybe you can ask a friend, or you could even be sitting at lunch at your work and be like, hey, let me ask you guys this. If you were in this situation and you could tell them what the scene is, what would you do? Like you're trying to figure out what your character is going to do. Well, ask different people what they would do in this situation. And explain to them, of course, that you're in this book and you're writing a book and blah, 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 blah. And then just get some different ideas of where different people feel this would go. And then maybe that'll spark an idea in you of where you want this character and this scene to go. Another technique, read. I mean, you should be doing that anyways if you're an author. But what I mean here is if you write fiction, reread like one of the books or the series that really inspired you to want to become an author. Because in rereading that may just excite you again and get those juices flowing to where you now are suddenly overwhelmed with all these ideas of what you want it to be. So that's a really good way to go. If you are nonfiction and you're stuck, for you, I would suggest maybe read other nonfiction books, because for you kind of already know what you're writing. What you might be stuck on might be how to put it on the page. Like you already did all the research on this, but how do I organize it? Or I got this chapter organized, but I don't like the way it looks. Maybe there's a better way to do it. Look at other nonfiction books that are similar to your genre or what you're writing in, or self-help books if you're writing a self-help book, and kind of look at how other authors have organized their research, and maybe you'll get some ideas of how to do that. Now, if you write memoir, a lot of these techniques aren't really going to apply to you because you already know your story. I mean, you're literally writing a slice of life from your story. So for you, what I might suggest, if you're stuck on how you should proceed with this, is maybe read other memoirs to give you an idea of how other authors have approached telling their story. And that might help you see, like, I don't like the way this author approached the way they did it. That's just not me. But hey, I do like the way this author did it. I like that style. And then maybe you can kind of mimic the way they wrote their memoir in your story. And if none of these work for you, then what might help you is not what helps me, but does help so many other authors. And that is to start a new project. Just put that one to the side and start a new project. And it might be helpful for you to give your new project a deadline. Like, I want to write in this project for 1 month, and then I'm going to go back to do this one. Or you might be so inspired with this new project that you finish that project. And then you go back to your other project. But these are all ideas that can help you if you get stuck in writing where you are. Now, if you personally have a strategy that works for you that I didn't mention, please place it in the comments to help other authors with even more ideas of how they can overcome their writer's block. Thank you so much for joining me this week. If you like my content, please follow, like, comment, share. Any of these are great. And hopefully I have been a little bit of help to help you unstuck yourself from getting stuck. And I will hopefully see you all next week right here on this channel next Wednesday for book writing tips, quick tips for new and seasoned authors. Thank you.